Hello everyone, it's Will and Wes, Kinetic Chaos Podcast number 30 coming at you very shortly. Hope you guys had a wonderful 4th of July. Wes still has his red on and white, but he left the blue at home because he doesn't like blue.
Yeah, I'm supposed to wear a hat too and I forgot about that. So.
Why don't you like blue? Because they're Democrats?
Because they're Yankee colors. What are you talking about?
Let's go Yankees. Although
you're wearing black though, so.
Oh, this is blue, man.
Oh, jeez.
Look at that.
It's because we're in the shade.
Oh, yeah. That's what we're going to blame.
There we go.
Somebody just turned on a fan, and it sounds like we're in a swamp in the bayou. What the hell is going on?
Hovercraft?
Yeah, that's exactly what we need right now is a hovercraft going. Well, I'm going to bring up the feed here so we can interact. Hey, there we are. We got a viewer. I think that's probably me. But let's keep our eye out, and hope you guys... Oh, hey, that's... You can hear it, and we'll silence that because we need to. So yeah, we're going to start in just a second. As always, we really encourage you guys to join us, get on the air, type in some questions, and see if you have anything for us. So without further, I thought this thing I had unsigned. Oh my goodness!
There you go.
Look at the brain
all
on
these
Brad.
Buttons.
That's right.
Too many buttons.
What up, Weiss? So, okay, let me bring up my stuff here so I can actually run the show.
That's no fun.
Yeah, right? Let me make one note here so that trifecta is correct. Because it's gonna be fire. Trifecta number 3 will be fire. How are we doing, David? Somebody just fired up a jet boat fan back here, and it sounds like I see we're in the bayou. Ridiculous. Okay, here we go. There we are. I really like that good news story. That's cool.
You like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Okay, guys. Without further ado, here we go. 3, 2. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Kinetic Chaos Podcast number 30. I am your host, Will, joined as always by my good friend, Wes.
Howdy.
We are joining you, as always, from the secret underground bunker on the 18th fairway at Orchard Hills Country Club. Hope everyone had a wonderful 4th of July yesterday. If you're listening to this, that was 2 days ago, but for everyone that's watching live, hope it was wonderful, uneventful, and you got to enjoy lots of wonderful food. So, without further ado, let's get into a good news or something good that happened to us since we recorded last week. As you guys can tell right now, we're doing one podcast a week right now, but we'll be back to our normal schedule very, very, very soon. So, Wes, what do you got for us?
I undertook not one but two smoking ventures.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I'm so proud of you for that.
So last week I did pork belly burn ends, which turned out outstanding. I just finished the last one off last night.
Yeah,
so I'm very sad about that. Yeah.
You didn't bring any for me though.
Well, that's because they've already been digested.
Okay, I don't need to know anymore.
And then yesterday I did my first go around at a pork butt, which turned out equally awesome.
Really?
So I'm very, very happy with the results.
You want to give us any insights into your cooking methods, any rubs, sauces, anything like that?
Yeah, I found a rub online on a
found a rub online, huh?
on a barbecue blog, and it was just your generic. Trying to think: brown sugar, salt, black pepper, cayenne, some cumin was in there, a lot of smoked paprika, and maybe something else. I can't remember now.
Salt?
But salt was the second thing. Yeah, brown sugar. Taking it from the top, brown sugar, salt, and then on down. But yeah, it had great. I'd used that both on the burn ends, the pork belly burn ends, and on the pork butts.
You like the cumin on there?
Yeah.
Cumin, whatever the heck it is.
Yeah, I know you hate cumin.
Pretty much.
I like cumin a lot, especially in chili. Go nuts with that in chili.
That is the one place that cumin actually has a place.
Yeah.
It's a very strong.
And I think the amount in this thing, because I made. The batch of rub was good enough for 5 pounds of meat. So I think in that, which was like 2 cups of rub or something like that. So I think in 2 cups worth of rub, there was like a teaspoon of cumin. So it wasn't that much. Nothing that you would stand out and notice or anything.
Yeah,
so.
Nothing too crazy.
Right.
But that's pretty awesome because you know, when guys like you, and we were actually talking before we started the show about barbecue and kind of how it can be kind of a daunting task to undertake, especially if you are not used to it, and it can be expensive if you screw up a pork butt. Actually, pork prices aren't too bad right now, but if you do mess it up, you know, like you were saying, that's a lot of money, time, effort, all down the drain. And so, you know, and to undertake this on the 4th of July when you're feeding a large group of people, I've got to commend you for that, because, hey, but if you're going to do it, go big or go home.
Pulled a 19-hour day yesterday.
That is what I like to hear. What time did you get to bed?
Midnight.
Really?
Got up just before 5 to fire up the smoker, and then stayed up and went to bed about midnight last night.
Very nice. Now, what's your smoker setup?
It's an electric smoker, like a 4-rack master build.
Yep, nice. Very nice. Those are good.
Yeah, it's very nice. I'm happy
we'll
with
get
it.
you loaded up onto the natural wood in due time. I know that you like your gas grill, which someday we're gonna have. We're gonna do just a show of us. Remember Office Space when they take the fax machine?
Just beat it?
Yeah, we're gonna take that. No, we're not gonna beat it. We're gonna blow it up.
Okay, and the gas
We're
grill?
gonna get a propane tank and we're gonna put it inside of it, and we're gonna shoot at it. Just make this as Murica as possible and blow it up in the middle of a field somewhere.
So
we'll get some tannerite or whatever that stuff is.
Give me a Traeger ahead of time or something, so I have something to replace it with.
We're going full. No, we're getting you Oklahoma Joe.
Okay.
Not that expensive, couple $100,
Yeah.
$250. I would say for anyone that is just backyarding it, it's awesome because it's good thick metal, and because for wind protection, that's why you want good thick metal. But not overly expensive and tremendous cooking size, offset abilities, direct flame, all of it. So
Costco carries it.
Do they?
They've got them on display with Traegers. They've got Traegers and Oklahoma Joes in Costco.
I did not see this because I usually see them at Lowe's. I've
At
not
least
seen them
at the 192nd Costco, they've got them. They were there last time I was there.
That's awesome. I'm probably going to go check that out tomorrow because I am, as I now have a spare tire from a wheelbarrow holding up my barbecue because I broke one of the legs. I broke like, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches off the bottom of it. So I'm looking around the yard going, what kind of, oh yeah, there's a tire. So I jammed, because why not? You know? Jam the tire under there. And I think this smoker it was $100. It's a, what is it? I don't know. Anyway, 8 years ago, I believe I bought it. And it's probably a 2-year smoker, like in the weather and the elements and whatnot. And we were at 8 years. And so it's time for a new one.
Yeah.
But we'll move on. We've got lots of barbecue to talk about as the summer moves on. And hopefully our cooking show will debut very, very soon, at some point very soon, so that we can unleash some of our barbecue prowess upon everyone else. Well, I will say that I'm going to use the same good thing as you in that I had a wonderful 4th of July yesterday, got to spend it with family, went out to my brother-in-law's in Yakult, blew stuff up. Oh, we started the day with a parade, though. And I'm not a parade guy, okay? Don't find the Grand Floral Parade or Macy's Day or anything like that exciting whatsoever. Don't have any desire to go ever watch them. But for some reason, small town parades, they got a hook in me. I love them. Because there's just something about kids lining up on the streets, being, within 5 feet of the parade, high-fiving people, fire trucks, go-karts, horses. We had a mini horse yesterday in the Yakult parade. So I think all of those things are just absolutely wonderful. And the best part of all of it, 10, 15 minutes. You're done.
Yeah.
Back to the grill. And that's exactly what I did. That thing popped off, I believe, at 10 a.m. And I was back. I had the grill rolling by 11. I pre-smoked 5 racks of ribs on Tuesday, made barbecue sauce, unleashed the fury, shooting fireworks, riding motorcycles. For those that are watching online, that is my
little burn.
That's from holding on to the motorcycle. Because I was, I ride with one hand basically, right. And it's ironic that on the 4th of July, I get a wound that kind of actually looks like England. Because, that's what we do here. So, anyway, no, we had a lot of fun and good to get out there, spend some time with family, and just unwind. Nothing crazy, didn't have to entertain a bunch of people, and then we had the finale of fireworks to end all finales, and I will go ahead and post that video with this. Actually got a few crazy videos. we were racing tractors and motorcycles and four-wheelers, and I'm not talking a lawn tractor. I'm like talking a full-on farm tractor. We had that out in the field. I'm riding the four-wheeler, videoing. So I'm riding the four-wheeler, holding on to the right side throttle with my left hand that I don't have while I'm videotaping, because that is safe, and I'm going as fast as I possibly can on
it's
this.
OSHA approved.
Oh yeah, it's a 50cc four-wheeler, little one. I'm chasing the tractor. My kids are passing me. It was just, I mean, yeah, I will say it was redneck as all redneck can be. So that was a lot of fun. So let's move on to our good story of the day, or just a good story. We've got an anonymous Good Samaritan that dropped $1 million on toys,
and big time Good Samaritan.
That's awesome. What do you got?
So this is surrounding Toys R Us, which is now officially defunct. Yep.
Yes. Nice. Good job.
And so they had their last, I think this was 2 Fridays ago, I believe, maybe last. Anyway, their final day for their final stores, so they're gone now. But the week leading up to the final store closures back in Raleigh, North Carolina, some anonymous guy came in and just cleaned out the entire store, spent $1 million, bought, I think they made it sound like they basically bought out the rest of the inventory in that store.
Really?
Bought them out clean and then donated it all to charity. So spent $1 million and gave it all the toys to charity.
Wow. And the best part of it is that he's anonymous.
Yep.
Doing no strings attached. That's pretty darn cool. And do we have any idea how many kids were affected?
No, the article did not say on that.
Did he do it like a Boys and Girls Club? Or?
Yeah, it just said charity.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, that's exactly what we want to hear. Is we're going to get into a hot sheet story here in just a second that really sucks, but that's we don't want it publicized by like the name. I really like the anonymity that they have, but just getting to see the story and again trying to restore hope and humanity that we're trying to do one podcast at a time. But no, that's awesome. So, well, like I said, the hot sheet, this one's no fun. Our first story here is about how Kim Jong-un, he decided to execute one of his army officers.
Yeah, it's back up to his old tricks. He's kind of been known for doing this, and when somebody kind of betrays him, or what his definition of betrayal is. This was a lieutenant general in his army, was executed, and the crime he committed was he was charged with abusing authority and engaging in anti-party acts. Really? And the thing that brought about those charges is that he gave his troops extra food rations. Yep. And so because he gave extra food rations to his troops, he was executed for that.
That's for all the pomp and circumstance that we had around the summit a few weeks ago, and we saw that entrance to the Sands Hotel there in where were they, Singapore?
Yep.
And when you see him walk into Sheldon Adelson's grandiose casino there like he's a rock star. Yeah. I mean, people are freaking out. It was like Elvis was entering the building, and people were, they were treating him like I said, like he was a rock star, not remembering that he's starving his people.
Doing stuff like this.
Exactly. And, he killed his brother, I believe, or he offed his brother?
Yeah, and I think several relatives, uncles and cousins. Yeah. He's offed a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, exactly. And running the same lines that his dad did. Yep. And it's just, when are we going to see that? Again, though, we see that the media was so excited to bash on everything and whatnot that they're going to stir up whatever. I guess they thought that he was cool with this entrance into the hotel and stuff, but these stories, it flies pretty far under the radar. Yep. I did see it, but I don't think most people did.
It's not being broadcast like you're saying, like his grand entrance was.
No, not at all. So we'll I don't know that there's much to update on that in the future, but obviously we're going to keep an eye on everything that is going on with his nuclear program that he said was going to be going to the wayside, but it sounds like they're actually kind of ramping that up. So that's as we say, no bueno. Well, number 2 here in the hot sheet. This one we had a nice update to, and I had a big smile on my face that old Mr. Pruitt at the EPA is looking for employment now.
Yeah, so the original hot sheet story was that there was ethics officials within the EPA that were calling for him to be investigated over his spending habits and ethical complaints and all that kind of stuff. And now we learned today that he didn't wait around for that investigation. He just went ahead and resigned today.
Yes. And like we were talking with Hojo about how that little, well, I don't know if it was a guerrilla, I don't know, not attack, but where she basically just walked up to him, and she had a video for it, didn't? In the restaurant.
Yeah, it was obviously staged because somebody was filming it. She was holding like a baby in her arms. It was that whole thing was cheesy. But I'm certainly not defending Pruitt because I don't think he did any good. But
no,
but the guerrilla tactics are a little cheesy though. But
yeah, I'll give you that, and I think that the story that was on CNN anyway, it just paints such a tainted picture of the overall thing. And like I said, I'm not a fan of Pruitt whatsoever, but regardless of that, if you're a news organization reporting news, it's not an opinion piece when you write it. And that's it, the slant to the story was so almost one-sided, making what she had to say and not giving his side of the story. Didn't give him an opportunity. Had one of his people give some kind of pretty standard response as to why. But if I was him before his resignation this afternoon, I would have certainly at least had some kind of retort from him or a response from him to give his side of the story as to what happened, not just, oh, he got up because he had to go to a meeting. That's a pretty canned response. And
yeah.
If you're going to try to, show that you have any type of thoughts as to why she did that, how are you going to rectify what she says? What is your, like a real genuine response.
Yeah.
Not, I've got to go to a meeting.
And so I'm wondering now that he's resigned if this ethics investigation will actually happen, because, they could technically look into his spending habits and demand that he repay some of that stuff. Well, yeah, because, that's what I'm saying. I don't know now that he's gone. I'm sure they could pursue criminal charges against him, but who was the guy, his name escapes me now, or his position escapes me, that was in the Trump administration early on? It was Mnuchin, wasn't it, with his wife doing all the...
Yeah.
And they reimbursed. They got flack for it, and they reimbursed the Treasury Department because they were flying private jets all over the joint when they didn't really need to be.
Exactly.
So, same kind of deal. So, with Mnuchin, he did repay the Department of Treasury coffers after a bunch of flack for that. So Pruitt kind of was pulling the same stuff. So now that he's resigned, I wonder if they're going to try to go after him to get some sort of repayment, or if it's just going to be a lost cause. Well,
and I think some of the issues as well is not just the flying private or the flying in first class and all of that. He basically was using his staffers as personal errand boys and gals. And I just... At what point does somebody get such a big head and such a large ego that they believe they're above reproach? Where is that point of no return where you're like, well, I don't give a damn what anyone says. I'm Scott Pruitt and I can do whatever I want.
Right.
I'm the head of the EPA. Well, you're not the Secretary of State. You're not the VP, President, whatever. Know your role and understand that you are here to serve us.
Yep.
We are the citizens that we put you, well, we didn't put you there, but you were nominated for that post by somebody that believed that you were actually going to do some good. But like we were talking about earlier, the EPA is pretty much worth the paper that it's written.
Exactly.
Not so much. So we'll. I don't think we're going to hear much from him. I'm sure he'll find some nice, cushy private sector job that pays him well into the six.
Probably go on the lecture circuit.
Oh yeah,
making speaking engagements. Yeah.
Here's how to take private jets on the public dollar.
Exactly.
It should be the public jets on the private dollar.
There you go.
But not with him. So I was going to move into number 3 here. 1040 tax forms have been revised, and when we think of that, we think that it might get easier. I don't think it did it?
Well, it's going to be interesting because now you used to have just the plain old 1040, and then you have the 1040A, Schedule A, and a 1040EZ form if you were going to itemize. So they've done away with all that, and now it's just a plain old 1040. There's no alternate forms anymore.
Okay.
And they have now reduced it down to just slightly larger than a postcard, double-sided.
Really?
So basically, if you were to make it single-sided, about a single page, single-sided page is about all that's boiled down to now. So this was the promise from the get-go with tax reform, is that they were going to make it down to a postcard size, which they kind of have, except that it's double-sided. But But I mean, kudos to them for following through on it and getting rid of a lot of the extra garbage that was in there and eliminating a couple of the forms, the Schedule A and the Easy form, and just saying, forget all that, we're just going to streamline it and go with one form only. So I like that.
I do like that, although I wonder if by eliminating the things on the 1040 Easy and the Schedule A and things like that, that if it is going to create more ambiguity in that you don't know exactly what you should be doing. Should I be using, or is this form going to give me everything that I need?
And I think
for
that's
the write-offs?
I think that's the point behind it, is that by eliminating all the other forms and going with this one form, you now know this is the only form you need, period. You don't have to worry about, oh, did I need to fill that part out or that one over there? It's all right there, period. Everybody fills out the same form. So
I still recommend that if you're making any money at all, spend a couple $100 and get an accountant. You don't even have to get a CPA. Don't go to Jackson Hewitt. Try to go to, I mean, yeah, if you're making, $12 an hour and you're in high school, you probably don't need to do that. But if you're married with children and things like that, a lot of times it could really benefit you to spend a couple $100 and keep that on the straight and narrow, if you know what I mean. I guess if you're a single family or a single income household and you don't have a lot of write-offs and things, but guys like me that are self-employed by all intents and purposes, boy howdy, there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, and you got a different ball of wax with the whole self-employment thing. But what I found over the years is, and this is a non-sponsored, non-compensated plug, but Free Tax USA is who I've used forever, and it's awesome. It's like TurboTax is another version of that, and it is sanctioned by the IRS, so it's all legit and it's online. And I've gotten it down now where I can get my taxes done in 20, 30 minutes.
Really?
Done. As long as I have all my paperwork in front of me, it's just plug and play. And what's cool is with all the other online tax forms, is it remembers all your info from the year before.
That's my single favorite thing about using any of those, and I use taxact.com. And because I think it's $10 now, but it used to be free. But and they hook you. They know that that's going to bring you back to their product every year. Yeah. But it is so nice just to log in and boom, you're populated.
Yeah, everything's there. Employers, all the employer information. All you have to do is change your income figures. Like if your income changed by a few bucks here or there, you just have to retype in the numbers. But your name, your address, all your personal info is there. All your employer's info and address is all there. So you don't have to retype any of that stuff.
Yeah, and that's why you can get your taxes done in 20 or 30 minutes. If you don't have to itemize and things like that. Do you itemize?
We haven't for a while now. It's been a while since we have. But it takes you through there. On this particular piece of software, it has you itemize first, and then it'll run the numbers and see if you're better off with the standard deduct versus itemization. So I mean, it'll do it both ways for you to get you the bigger write-off.
Yeah, and I like that they go through and they check on whether you would be better off in filing one way or another, head of household, whatever it may, and always it goes back to being married and that kind of stuff usually. But anyway, so I mean, as long as it makes it easier for people, because it's so, you get those things, and when you get older, you've been through it so many times, it gets a little bit easier. But when you're younger, holy moly, that stuff can get really confusing really quick.
And there's probably something wrong with me, but I actually look forward to it.
You are a freaking crazy person. You honestly look forward to it?
I love it. I love numbers, man. It's just get to
I like numbers too. I get to 7 and I'm done though, man. That's it. You look forward to taxes.
Yeah, I do.
Well, now didn't Tia get into?
Tia's taken some tax prep courses and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. But y'all are crazy.
Yeah, we both enjoy it.
Oh my god! You guys just sit down on a Friday night with a glass of wine and a Bloody Mary and
just knock it out. Yep. You ever 20 minutes and you're done with the taxes.
You ask like family and friends, can we do your taxes for you for free?
That's right.
We're looking for some entertainment on Friday. Well, with number 4 we get in here, we've got the old Russians got some submarine activity, excuse me, in the Atlantic Ocean that we're kind of keeping an eye on.
Yeah, it's we've detected an increase in submarine activity in the Atlantic Ocean. I was trying to spit it out there, and so it's concerning enough that the administration has ordered the carrier group, the USS Harry Truman, to move from the Mediterranean Sea out into the Atlantic.
Really?
To kind of get a little closer to the action in case something were to happen. So we're kind of ramping things up. Still just taking the wait and see approach, but the fact that they moved a whole carrier group closer to the situation means that they're taking it kind of seriously, or at least giving it all due respect for what what could happen, kind of thing. So
well, and when we say a carrier group, folks might think that it may be a carrier and maybe a couple of frigates or something like that. A carrier group is damn near an entire naval
destroyers
fleet.
And a couple subs come with them, and you get the whole spectrum.
I mean, you want to show a force.
Yeah.
You send a carrier group anywhere, and people are going to pucker up a little bit and listen. So that's we like that, and we like to make sure that we have our flag flying around the world to make sure we're all protected. So, well, keeping in line with the military, looks like we've got some possible troop withdrawal in Germany.
Yeah, and I gotta give Trump kudos on this. I like to, we like calling him out when he does stupid stuff, which is a lot of times, but I also like to give credit where credit's due. And I am a fan of this one, is drawing down troops, or in this case, it's in Germany.
Yeah, Ramstein?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different bases, but that's the big one.
Yeah.
Anyway, when he first got elected, he had talked about an interest in getting the bulk of the troops out of Germany, and now he's formed an exploratory committee within the military to look to see about, getting the ball rolling on doing this. So,
is this because he and Merkel don't get?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I like the idea of getting the troops out of Germany and getting them out of, and not to say maybe 100%, but definitely dial it back, because with modern technology, like we just talked about the carrier groups, we can have like a whole ton of people anywhere in the world within a pretty short order. Mm-hmm. So we don't need to have thousands of people just hanging out there.
Just drinking Stein.
Yeah, exactly. So like like with Germany or Japan or whatever, I'm all for bringing the troops home. And
Japan, just because of the proximity to the
with Korea,
Far East, and
yeah,
it's not so much Korea as that the big C word, China.
Yeah,
having some kind of presence in that area, I like. I think that being a part of NATO, we don't necessarily need to have everyone parked in Germany. It's not like we have the same issues that we used to, but I think we need to have a presence, but I think we're in England and in Europe in general a lot.
Yeah, we have a lot of European presence, which I think is kind of overkill. So,
yeah, it's we like to see them come home because they're members of the military and they would much rather be on our soil, I'm sure, than somebody else's. So that's good to hear. And any time frame on that?
No, they're just now starting to look into the logistics of withdrawing, so no time frame was given.
I wonder what kind of economic impact that could have on Germany.
That is an interesting point, yeah.
Do you have any idea how many troops we have there?
You know what, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think that, I'm sure in some areas that could have a fairly significant impact if you moved 10,000 family or 10,000 people and their associated families out of an area. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So, well, now it's time for that flashback follow-up. This is our newest segment that we've actually named. Am I correct?
I think so.
I do believe. I think I incorrectly called it just a follow-up last week. I don't know that I gave it the proper moniker, but Saudi Arabia looks like they've actually decided they're going to increase oil production.
Yeah, so we talked about this a couple episodes ago, where they said that they would, I guess the Trump administration made a phone call saying, hey, can you guys crank it up if need be?
They sent them a text message.
Yeah. And so within this last week, Trump made a phone call, supposedly, to the king of Saudi Arabia, and to go over this, and he agreed to it, and he said, yeah, we can dial it up for you, just say the word. So it hasn't actually gone down yet, but we've agreed to terms on both sides that as soon as Trump says go, they'll crank it up.
Really?
And it'll be, they're talking about an increase of 2 million barrels per day.
Are you serious?
Increase.
Wow.
Which would be double the current output.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah. So, and this, obviously, the big deal for this would be to combat the rising gas prices. So that'd be kind of nice if we were to see a little decrease in gas prices.
What's the impact?
The other side of things.
That's what I was going to say.
I don't know. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see what kind of.
I want to kind of look at what the oil futures did as well, because I'm sure that has to depress them to some degree. Iran and the other OPEC nations have got to be a little pissy about it, though. I would imagine they're not too thrilled.
Yep, I would think so.
Well, it's about that time, as I always say. Hojo's Hot Takes coming at you. Will you write this down real quick? Do you have a pen?
I got a pen.
2725, please. without further ado, it is time for Hojo's Hot Take. And we are back. Hojo's Hot Take, brought to you by Hojo. Soon that may have somebody else's name there. Yeah. Not a person, but a sponsor maybe.
Howard Johnson's hotel chain.
Exactly. No, Howard Johnson, the second baseman for the Mets.
That's right.
And he was great. Well, wasn't he the second baseman?
I think you're right.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know why I knew that. But anyway, so, well, it is time for the trifecta. We have possible nominees for the Supreme Court, which evidently took a break from the news cycle because I haven't heard about them in like a day.
Yeah, and actually there was an update this afternoon because the original story that we were going to run with was that Trump had supposedly narrowed it down to 5 to 7 people, and then a story broke this afternoon that was reported by several networks that he has now narrowed it down to 3. Okay. One of whom, and of course I didn't write him down, Kavanaugh is one guy. I'm not a fan of him. He's pretty wishy-washy in terms of his beliefs. I mean, he kind of plays it closer to center, so I'm sure the left would like him more than anybody because he's the furthest left of anybody.
Which is to say, still right of center, I would imagine.
And yeah, a little bit, but not much. More in the vein of Kennedy, because Kennedy was just barely right of center, and this is who he'd be replacing. But my big choice, one of the people that one of my top 3 picks is one of the gals that's actually in there in the running, and that's Amy Barrett, who's a circuit on the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals, and she got flack when she got nominated to the 7th Circuit Court, and this was a huge hullabaloo with the whole partisan fighting, is that they basically, in a roundabout way, just pulled the cheap shot the Dems did on her by trying to give her the whole religious litmus test because she's a practicing Catholic. Okay. And they tried it was Kamala Harris, I believe, senator out of California, and somebody else were hounding her saying, how can you be an impartial judge if you're Catholic? It's like, you have
to be an atheist now to be a Supreme Court justice?
It was horrible the way she was treated in front of her Senate confirmation for the Court of Appeals, so I can only imagine that if she gets nominated to the Supreme Court, that people are going to try to grill her again. But how transparent and how ridiculous is that you're going to grill somebody for their religion? I mean, it's like, what does that accomplish?
And I thought that we kind of couldn't be discriminated against because of your religious beliefs.
So they of course got themselves a little wrist slap for doing that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they pull that again. But it just shows you how low you can sink to try to attack somebody's character based on their religion.
And to use that as a litmus test for what they're going to, you're trying to project what their rulings are going to be for, I don't know how old she is off the top of my head, but
she's fairly, I think she's, I want to say mid-late 40s maybe. She's fairly young.
So we're looking probably 30 years on the bench.
Yep.
Trying to project what she's going to do for rulings down the road based on her religious beliefs. And just because you identify as a Catholic or a Lutheran or whatever, that doesn't mean you're practicing. It doesn't mean you go to church every week. It doesn't mean anything. It means maybe you were confirmed into the Catholic Church. I don't know. And you know what? It's none of our damn business.
Right.
It really isn't. And if she wants to go, and as long as she's not hurting anyone else, it's the same thing we always go back to. You've got to have some kind of belief system in something. Whether it's atheism, whether it's Catholicism, Lutheranism, whatever ism it is, it's got to be, you believe in something, and that may be the lack of something, but who cares what your belief is as long as you're not an axe murderer or something. And that's what, you are, I don't know, going, if you think Charlie Manson was the Messiah, which a few people actually did, it really, like I said, it really boils down to it's your personal beliefs have nothing to do with us, in my opinion. So
supposedly over this past week, Trump has done phone interviews with everybody. I think he started off with a pool of like close to 20 people that he did phone interviews with.
Really?
And he's now narrowed it down to these 3. One of the people, one of the conservative darlings that the right really wanted in there is Senator Mike Lee out of Utah, who's outstanding. I like him a lot. And evidently, so he's not among the 3 finalists, supposedly. But they said that Trump did call him and basically asked for his advice of who he would recommend, not interviewing him for the job, but
Wait,
saying,
why?
I don't know, just because he respects his opinion, I guess, and I guess he's wanting the the thought is that he wanted somebody that's already on the bench somewhere, so like a circuit court judge or a federal judge, as opposed to taking somebody out of the Senate for a job like that. So,
but he won't nominate him, or is there a reason that he wants to leave him where he is and not bring him?
Well, because he's a big conservative stalwart in the Senate, so the idea that you don't want to weaken the Senate by taking arguably one of the most powerful, staunch conservatives there is in the Senate, and taking him out of that position. So I think that was the reason for not going to him, or the reason that he would not be nominated.
Yeah, and as we go back to Amy Bennett and talking about her beliefs and things like that, do they ask her what kind of car she drives?
Right.
Do they ask her if she likes butter or margarine? I mean, none of that stuff matters, but I would be more concerned with if she drives an American car. Okay, is she supporting an American company or whatever? And I know that that's a long shot and it really doesn't matter, but those are the I would like to see what's her patriotism like, those types of things, rather than what her belief in a deity is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
This is something that is absolutely going to pop up in the flashback follow-up.
And we definitely will talk about it next time around, because he is slated to make his decision on Monday. This coming Monday, he's supposed to announce.
Really?
So it is. Yep.
Well, that's. Do you think he'll get it done by then? You think Monday will actually happen?
I think so, because he said Monday, like last Monday, he was giving himself a week, and so if he's whittled it down from 20 to 3, and we've still got 4 days to go, gives him 4 days to pick out of this pool of 3, supposedly. So I think he'll do it on Monday.
I wonder what it's like to make that decision to nominate somebody. Does he have a team of people around him?
Oh, I'm sure he's got plenty of people advising him.
Yeah, we've got to have more than just somebody that a year and a half ago didn't have any power to do something like this, and now they're appointing somebody to the highest court in the land.
Right,
so,
right.
We'll, like I said, we'll keep an eye on that one. We're going to go into number 2 here, and again, it's not the most fun topic, but we have some mysterious murders at a California campground that want some answers on, I imagine.
Yeah, this is pretty weird deal, and sad for that, not to mention sad. This was in Malibu Creek Campground in Los Angeles County. It was a guy camping with his 4-year-old and 2-year-old daughters, and in the middle of the night, somebody walked up to the tent and shot and killed him. And luckily, the 4-year-old and 2-year-old were unharmed, but the dad was shot and killed, and just obviously totally random and senseless. And they've got no leads. And this is actually the 8th shooting at this camp. I think it's the first fatality, but it's the 8th shooting at this campground in the last 2.5 years. And all of the shootings are unsolved. So it's almost like it's a serial kind of a deal. And so the authorities now, until further notice, they have closed the campground because they obviously can't let this kind of stuff go on. So. And
no other campgrounds in the area have had any issues?
Nope, I think it's all been this one campground.
How many years did you say?
This is the 8th shooting in the last 2.5 years.
Wow. And for something as senseless as that, it sounds like it's just cold blood. They're just walking up and shooting somebody.
Yep.
And what are the circumstances? Do we have any other ideas with the shootings in terms of were they tents or?
It's all tent camping as far as I'm aware. But yeah, there's no motives, no clues, no nothing. They're basically it's totally an unknown deal. So
wow. Yeah. And that's what when you go camping and you're in a campground and you have hosts and you have other people, you think you're in a relatively safe environment, save for Smokey the Bear coming and stealing all your I know s'mores stuff, but it really is scary, especially when you have no leads. At some point, though, I would think that they may have some kind of security. I don't know. By the time we have the 5th shooting, I would want to maybe get something going.
Yeah. So I mean, at this point, they've their way of answering that is now just to shut the whole place down until they figure it out. So
and at this point, I would be. I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, after shooting number 6, I'd probably cross that one off my list if it was a very good campsite or whatnot. I will say we've gotten I don't like talking about shootings and stuff that much, so I'm going to look over here and
Line it up.
Oh yeah, we've got several golfers that are milling about looking for their golf balls in this one patch in the right outside of the secret bunker here on the 18th fairway. We already had one ball hit the trees?
Oh no, plenty more than that.
Plenty more just today?
Yeah, it's been a big heavy tree day.
A heavy tree day. I think all trees are heavy, aren't they? The one thing I will say is that we have not seen Frank and Karen lately.
No. Somebody ate him.
No, I think they got hit by golf balls.
That could be.
We have a serial squirrel golf ball attacker. We're going to get off course here, so we'll go back to number 3 here in the old trifecta. This one, we decided that I'm going to preface this with a little bit of a programming change for Wes and I. We're going to expand one of the podcasts each week into a little bit of a hybrid podcast, in that we're going to keep the hot sheet the way it is in the follow-up, but we're going to go with we're going to remove the trifecta, and this is probably going to be on our Thursday recording and broadcast, and we're going to go more off the cuff, more fun, more life, just not as serious.
Yeah.
And Mondays, it's going to be hard hitting still. We got the weekend, all that stuff. We want to catch up on all that, but as we enter into the weekend, whether it may be something fun going on in the area, things like that, we just want to kind of, wow, that was awesome. And he's wearing salmon as well. What is it with these old guys and salmon?
It's a thing.
I don't get it. And he's, come on. Oh, he just talked the tar out of it, didn't he? No. Anyway, he made not a very good shot. But anyway, so as we kind of transition into this new hybrid podcast, this is going to be our first kind of attempt at that. And so when I got here to record today, we didn't actually know what we were going to do for number 3, and we decided that a hot button topic is, as always, fireworks. And it doesn't matter where you are in the country, fireworks always bring out 2 big sides. Mm-hmm. One which is completely anti-fireworks and all of that. And I don't want to confuse fireworks and freedom and things like that. I'm looking at this, if you don't shoot fireworks, you're not an American or anything like that. I'm looking at more purely like how it impacts people that are either for it or against it. I know that you're a proponent of fireworks.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm neutral. I'm not hardcore either way, so I'm kind of, yeah.
I think it's something for me as I've gotten older. When I was younger, late teens, 20s, things like that, it was a big day, the 4th of July, but it wasn't a big day for the reason that it should be, which is to celebrate our freedom. It was an excuse to get drunk, shoot fireworks at each other, and barbecue. It's still a good excuse to barbecue. But now as we've had this, the nation is kind of divided on things, and everything is an argument now. If you do this, you're a horrible person. If you do that, and everyone's taking fireworks and trying to turn them into an argument again, rather than having a responsible conversation like we did with Julie Olson a few weeks ago. I thought that was a really good kind of starting point for a discussion on something that it really does impact people. As much of a proponent of them as I am, having spent the last probably 4 or 5 years in an area where we couldn't shoot fireworks in Central Oregon, when you don't have them, you really don't miss them. Mm-hmm. But when you have them, it's fun. I mean, I'm going to put a video up on the post tomorrow for the show that we had 33 mortars screwed down to a 4x8 sheet of plywood, and me and the other guy, we put these long sparklers, are like 3 feet long, and basically wired all 33 of them together, and we got all of them to launch. We lit one fuse, and they just went off in succession.
Like dominoes?
Absolutely. And I will say that one of my absolute favorite things to do is watch somebody else blow up their money.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Mean Gene, only because Gene and Chris Marlowe, Chris Marlowe and Gene are friends of my family, and they're really awesome people, and so I like to support them. But I think we spent $50, something like that. Brandon and I went down last week and picked up a couple mortars and some strobes. I think strobes may be the most underrated, obnoxious firework there is. Because we were walking back last night from the fireworks show, and the kids were back at the house already, and all of a sudden I see this light, because it was dark where we were up in Yakult, and all of a sudden it's just, boom, boom, boom. I couldn't believe it. We were hundreds and hundreds of feet away, if not 1,000, and it was lit up like Christmas tree. It was awesome. What did you guys do in your neighborhood though? Because you guys are in more. I mean, I was in a rural.
Right.
We
We're in an
tight
actual neighborhood. Yeah. And then one thing I do have to give kudos for, our neighborhood handles it really well, and I feel fortunate to live in a neighborhood like this, because since I always have to, unless it's on a weekend, then I always have to work the next day.
Right.
Is that everybody shuts it down by around 10:30ish.
Wow.
So everybody's really respectful. Don't get me wrong, it was nuts, like non-stop explosions, like every 5 seconds for hours on end. But come 10:30, you got nice and quiet. Everybody just kind of packs it in.
Yeah.
So it's nice because it's a working neighborhood. Everybody has a job to do in the morning, and I'm sure some people take the next day off, but for the most part, other people respect the fact that people have to go to bed and get up early the next morning for work, so you don't want to stay up till 1 a.m. shooting fireworks. So.
Exactly, and I have to say that over the years we've seen the significant reduction in the amount of time that we can shoot fireworks, the days that we can purchase them. In fact, Vancouver completely banned them, and usually you don't see people actually, in my opinion, respond super well to these types of attempts at curtailing the fun.
Yeah.
Basically, you're being the fun police. But I will say, we went there, and Mean Gene's hands out a card, kind of gives you the rundown on the legality of when you can shoot them and things like that. And I'm right there with you. When we got home last night, and we live in Vancouver, I think we got home at 11:30, and I would hear, and I was up till probably 1 reading, a faint boom here and there. Mm-hmm. Nothing crazy. Yeah. Nothing, and it used to be, I will say 10 years ago, I'd drive 11:30 or 12 from, going from Camas to Vancouver or whatever, and it was nuts.
Yep.
Until 1 or 2 in the morning. And now I think that they've done a really good job educating the public. I understand that there are people that this impacts. I really do. And I feel for them. And I think that it's really good, though, that they've brought them down to 1 day. I don't have a problem with that. They allow the sale of them for 7 days, so that all of these great places like Mean Gene's or Grand Slam that are supporting charities and things like that are raising funds for bands. And here in Washougal, when I was in high school, and I don't know if they still do it or not, but the Washougal High School band, that was a major source of funds for us to buy instruments and things like that. So, there's two sides to the coin. I understand that pets have a problem with it. My dog does not like fireworks whatsoever. But for a few hours, 1 day a year, my dog can fade. He's a dog, okay? And maybe that sounds callous, but it is what it is.
Right.
We're humans. He's a dog. He'll get over it.
Yeah.
And tomorrow morning, or yesterday, or this morning when I got up and I gave my dog a treat, he wasn't mad at me.
Yeah.
He survived, and so it's it's just kind of, you measure the good and the bad. I will say, and we talked about this just before we went on air, is you see the amount of people and the amount of money that is spent on fireworks that maybe could go to something. We applaud them for raising charity and things like that, but there's a lot of people that spend a lot of money on fireworks that maybe can't afford it.
Yeah, shouldn't be doing it.
Shouldn't be doing it. And I think that this year firework prices were higher than they were last year, and that's just completely anecdotal. I don't have any evidence of that I can back that up, other than that I probably spent about $50 a year on fireworks. Nothing major or whatever. When the years pass, we got somebody laughing at somebody. But in years past, when we've been in Fossil and things like that, I'll buy a few and we light them off and nothing crazy. But this year especially, though, and going back to the time frame and whatnot, even though they sold them for 7 days, it was not like Beirut for 7 days.
Right.
Yes, you would hear some, and I will raise my hand and say that I fired off some jumping jacks and a ground bloom flower a few days in advance of the 4th of July. But nothing that was too crazy or anything like that. And I think also that here in Clark County, they raised the fine to what, $500?
It's pretty steep now, yeah.
I mean, and there was a big banner or a big headline in the Columbian, I think yesterday or the day before, I think I was on Tuesday, about fireworks violations and how they were really, ramping up the patrols and things like that. But $500 is nothing to laugh at anymore.
Right.
If somebody's going to charge me $500 to fire off a ground bloom, nope, I don't need to do that.
Right, exactly.
But it's, and it would be interesting to kind of see you can't really break it down by demographics or anything like that, but even geographically, where are the most fireworks sold?
Yeah.
Who is spending the money? Obviously, we can't track the fireworks that are purchased illegally on an Indian reservation or whatnot, but it would be interesting to see. And I don't know any numbers on how much money fireworks sales generate, but it's got to be enormous.
I would think so.
And we always hear from the incredibly loud minority in that everyone hates fireworks and things like that. But if everyone hates fireworks so much, why do we have so many stands? And why was I trying to take a left off Highway 99 onto 63rd Avenue and was stopped by so many cars turning into Mean Jeans?
The fireworks, yeah.
I don't understand that.
Yeah, it's still a big draw. And now that the other side of the thing you'd mentioned, talking about charities suffering because of the fireworks ban in city of Vancouver proper, is that the old Fort Vancouver fireworks show is not what it used to be.
Now, I heard that the show itself was really, really good.
Right.
But the whole day of it, I mean, it used to be what was it, the biggest fireworks show on the
west of the Mississippi?
Yep.
So yeah, you're right. The fireworks show itself is still good, but that's now that they've lost a lot of their funding due to all the fireworks booths not being around anymore. What little funding they have, they spend solely on They spent solely on the fireworks this year, and they no longer had any food or beverage booths or any live entertainment. So you used to go make a full day of it. You'd show up at 10 in the morning. It'd be like a 12-hour day. You'd show up at 10 in the morning, sit out on the lawn, walk the entire grounds of the fort, listen to, they had like 2 or 3 stages set up with live music going, a bunch of different food booths and, vendor booths, like almost like a farmer's market kind of deal. But anyway, and none of that anymore. It's all gone now. So my wife is a huge fan of going to the fort. She did it as a kid growing up. I never did. We went a couple times, I think, when we first got engaged. Haven't been in several years, but talked to a friend who went this year, and he said the crowd was noticeably smaller this year because of the fact that there's no longer any booths or any entertainment or anything. So
when's the last time you went to it?
7 years ago, maybe 7.
Oh, okay, so it's been some time.
Yeah.
It's been, it's probably been since I was 21.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere around there since I've been, but I know that it was a really big deal. But the funding that you're talking about, so the city, I think it was the city, they signed a contract with Bomber Brothers Fireworks to support the Fort Vancouver show for hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Now, the gentleman that ran Bomber Brothers, and still does, I believe, he was more than happy to do it because it was pretty much kind of a guarantee that he was going to continue to sell fireworks. But they ended up nixing that contract, I believe, about halfway through it. And I mean, he was, I think, maybe like $200,000-$300,000 he was giving them towards the fort.
Yeah.
But they ended up nixing that contract because of the changes that they've made to the fireworks laws. That's great, but if the booths, and I understand the bands may cost some money, but I know there's a lot of bands out there that would probably pay or play for free.
Yeah, just for the exposure.
Exactly. In an event like that, the booths, most of the time, people that want to participate in something like that will actually pay a fee. I know I did when I did the barbecue stuff back in 2009. I think $75, $100, but it covered their cost for electricity and all that baloney. But I don't understand why they wouldn't make an event out of that doesn't cost the city any more than it already does.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you bring up too. Just for those 2 facts you mentioned, you'd think that bands would like to show up. Obviously, you're not going to get like some major headliner bands, but local bands that are looking to get their name out there, they'd gladly pay for free because you've got thousands of people there you got a captive audience, so why not play for free? And then, like you're saying, for the vendor booths, anywhere you go, like a farmer's market, any sort of little, town festival kind of stuff like we have here in Camas days, everybody pays a few, 10, 15, $20 for their booth locations.
It's more than that.
So
Camas
depending on
probably
depending on what kind of event it is, but yeah, so more to your point, they're not, the city is not paying for those vendors to be there. The vendors would be paying themselves to be there. So why couldn't they make a go of that? That doesn't make any sense to me. And I didn't even think about that until you brought that up. It's not like the city's footing the bill for those vendors to be there.
They're footing the bill for this fireworks. That's the big one. They could probably help, take care of some of the costs of the actual fireworks by having that.
Yeah.
Or, I think they did a few years ago, they charged an admission. And I'm not big on charging an admission for that because it's, it's always been one of those things that I'm sure a lot of families really try to take advantage of because it is free. They don't have, if you got 3 kids and mom and dad, spending $50 to go watch the fireworks, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
It's not something that, I can absolutely see that it would turn people off to going down there and watching it. But doing it for free and having things that do provide some sort of monetary value, whether it's a miniature carnival that is run by volunteers of the city and things like that you could drum up support. You can have, like you said, the bands, whatever it may be. Hell, a bouncy house for the kids.
Right.
Charge kids $5 to go bounce around for 10 minutes. That's a great way. Whatever it may be, but give people something to look forward to. Like I said, I read some reports that the show was actually really good.
Yeah.
I don't know that it was on par with what we had 15, 20 years ago. Quick side note to that, I flew in from New York one time on the 4th of July at 10:30 at night. Talk about one of the coolest / when you have anxiety from flying, scariest things I've ever seen in my life is flying above fireworks.
Yeah.
We came in and they make that big sweeping turn when they're coming from the east to get wherever they were landing. They did that, and you're going over, and all of a sudden it's just crap blowing up everywhere
mortars coming at you.
Yeah. It was really neat to have a complete reverse perspective on it, but then it's like, I really hope that guy that designed this didn't get an extra, 100 feet on the gunpowder and it's going to take out our wing or something. Not that it would do that, but no, it's that was really cool. But we've kind of gone long on this one, but that's kind of what we're looking for.
Yeah,
here.
This is doing a free form.
Yeah, it's just you and I kind of chatting about something, and we kind of both learned something about it and thinking about it in a different way. I'm always trying to think outside of the box. So. But that's going to take us right into crunch time here. I don't know that we solved any problems, but we had a discussion about it. And like I said, I will reiterate, I know that there are people that it impacts, whether it's pets or vets. But I will say, when I think about veterans and fireworks, the correlation I make is, yes, there's going to be a certain segment that do not like it, but that doesn't have anything to do with veterans. That has to do with people in general. Mm-hmm. There are just people that don't like fireworks. But I would imagine there is a good portion of veterans that are really for fireworks because it represents what they served for.
Right.
The American flag, our military, our country that is the greatest country on earth, in my opinion.
Yep. And
so I can see them being large proponents, and I know a number of veterans that are very, very big proponents and spend quite a sum of money on celebrating the holiday. So with that, it is time for crunch time. I'm going to let you jump this time as I totally hijacked you last week with my sad story.
It's all good. No, I got a happy story and something I want to give this guy credit for, and something that's too rarely seen these days in the day and age of living in excess and blowing tons of money on stupid stuff. Is
like
that
fireworks?
Yeah. Is that rookie running back Saquon Barkley, who was from Penn State University and drafted by the New York Giants. He signed, and granted, in his case, he's a high-profile draft pick, so he was able to step right into some big endorsements coming out of college. Mm-hmm. But he came out and said that he was going to live off the endorsements only and not touch one penny of his football salary.
Really?
So I got to hand it to obviously he's surrounding himself with some smart people to tell him, how to manage his finances properly. But evidently, he's got enough money coming in from endorsements that he said that he's just going to bank all of his football salary every year.
Wow.
Not even touch it. He can live off his endorsements.
That is amazing. And I did see, I believe last week he bought his mom a house.
Yes, that was the first thing he did with his signing bonus, was bought his parents a house. Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible because, what is he, 22 probably? Maybe 23?
Yeah.
That?
Yeah. At the oldest, yeah.
Yeah. To have a kid that, he's ahead of his years.
Yep.
And like you said, he probably has some pretty significant endorsements that he's going to be able to live on. And even if that's $1 million a year, that's a hell of a lot of money.
Yep.
So that's great to hear, and we want hopefully more people will. They have these rookie symposiums and things like that where I'm sure they just bash into these guys' heads not to spend all their money on bling and Ferraris.
Because you hear so much about all these athletes going bankrupt like 5 years down the road. They've blown their entire earnings. So it's good to see a kid like this go in the right direction. So.
Absolutely. And in the NFL, it is so hard to have a career. What's the average career? 3 years?
Yep.
And mainly, I think a lot of it is that those guys are looking to invest in the retirement program.
Yeah.
I think that you have to play for 3 seasons and then you're vested into the program. But that's a huge deal to get into that. So that's awesome. I actually had my crunch time, but I was driving here and I looked to my right as I crossed over the bridge. The Columbia River's on my right. I could not, and this is a completely stupid crunch time, but it just struck me. I bet you the river was at least 10 feet lower than when I came out here last week.
Oh, really?
I could not believe. First I was on Highway 14 and I looked over and I saw one of the islands, and all of a sudden I saw all the sand.
Yeah.
And then I come over there in Camas by the mill, and there's the docks and things that have some of the tugboats and whatnot. There's sand showing there, and some of them are laying on it. I was like, where did all of this water that we had 1 week ago go? Did the Corps of Engineers just shut it down and forget to open the floodgates or what? I don't know what the hell happened with that, but and that's the end of my crunch time. But I do want to give shout outs. I didn't give any shout outs earlier to everyone that's been watching. Jennifer McDaniel, thank you very much for watching. Becca Weisman, my wife. Jan, Heath, saw him on there earlier. So I want to thank everyone for watching. As I always say, we've got some pretty cool stuff coming up. We're going to be increasing our profile, I think, a little bit. Hopefully have some extra video production that doesn't rely on this really awesome piece of cardboard that is behind the camera that, if I'm looking at it correctly, is that a rainbow on it?
My daughter drew that.
Yeah, I figured it wasn't you.
It wasn't me.
It could have been me, because that is about the level of...
Oh, it is for me, too.
Yeah.
Artistic talent.
No artistic talent. So, well, with that, this has been Kinetic Chaos Podcast number 30. I'm very happy to say number 30, because that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's another big milestone.
Huge milestone, each and every one of them. So, you have anything else for us?
How about we throw a little HSF in?
Oh,
we skipped that.
Did I?
Because I got a cool factoid.
Oh, man, I'm sorry.
That's
I
all
totally
good.
Screwed that one.
No.
Oh, you do? 48 babies born in 41 hours?
That's
Are
insane.
you kidding me?
This was at one hospital in Fort Worth, Texas, where, as you said, 48 babies were born in
What the hell happened 9 months ago?
in a 41-hour span. And so, as you would imagine, that's obviously a ton of babies happening within less than 2 days. So they basically called in all staff.
Yeah.
Brought
All
everybody
hands on
in,
deck.
all hands on deck. And they catered in food. They brought in, so basically the staff was just kind of eating pizza as they went. So they brought they brought in pizzas and everything else. And so the staff, everybody that was on their days off, all had to come in and just they brought in food for them and stuff like that to keep them going around the clock. But that's nuts. 48 babies in less than 2 days.
So we're looking at somewhere around September.
Yeah.
Of last year. We don't have our cool little dial-up things. Remember we used to have at the clinic? Because we used to be able to kind of calculate.
What did we call those?
What did I call it? The Wheel of
Fortune?
No.
Was it the Wheel?
I called it something.
Yes,
I can't remember. But we could kind of figure out when the day of conception was. But yeah, wonder what was in the water that week or that day.
But the other thing, unless it's just some massive hospital with some maternity ward, you have 48 rooms for babies all to be there at the same. That's
I wonder if they set up portables like they do in high schools.
Exactly.
Or just big tents. It's like, here you go. We got a nice 8-man tent set up for you, and just go ahead and there's a, washing thing over there. Just make sure you clean yourself up and get out of here. Is that it?
That is it. I am
awesome.
done.
We are done. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next week. I'm not going to commit to anything yet, but we will see you, and you will hear from us next week. Like I said, Wes as well.
I'm Wes.
Kinetic Chaos Podcast number 30. Thank you very much for listening. We gone. Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. We've had our best viewing numbers yet on this broadcast, so thank you guys. Appreciate it so much for all your support and all your. I kind of sound like Bartles and James now, but
Sounds
remember
good.
that?
Yeah.
How many of those did you drink when you were a kid?
Oh, snuck a few sips.
Yeah? Your mom and dad? Were they big Bartles and James folks?
Yeah, Mom was, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The wine coolers. Which
yeah.
flavor? Strawberry?
Like
That was so sweet.
the,
I mean, it
the
was
fuzzy navel, like the peach flavored ones and stuff.
make me want to puke. Oh, that stuff was terrible.
The generic margarita flavor.
Oh yeah, just
the
totally
lime flavored.
Yeah,
the sweet
absolutely.
Lime. Yep.
Well, and then the other one is the what the hell was it? The Mad Dog 2020, which was like the fortified version of Bartle. That was for like seniors. Not that I drank in high school or anything, but that's what that kind of feels like to me. Is the folks that were they could handle the 9% alcohol rather than the 4.5 that was in the Bartles and James.
Yeah, the hot one coming through.
That was good.
I think he did call that Wheel of Fortune.
Did I call it the
I
Wheel
think
of
it was Wheel
Fortune?
of Fortune.
It
It wasn't the Wheel of Death. But
No, it wasn't the Wheel of Death. We wouldn't want that, but no, was it that? I don't know, but it was pretty awesome because people will be like, "How did you know that?" And I'm like, "Don't worry about it."
Yeah.
We dial it up. It was like a sundial.
Sundial. I was going to say
it's like,
exactly what it was.
Oh,
Sundial.
hey, I know what day you did that. And then we always had we call it, my doctor's MA actually called it 2 dessert holidays is when all the babies are conceived. Any holiday that you're going to eat more than one dessert, i.e. 4th of July,
Thanksgiving,
Labor Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas. That's when the crazy stuff starts happening. So, and I could go into some rap rhymes right now, but I won't do that. I'll keep it clean. Jennifer, thank you very much. We appreciate that. You ready to call it a night?
We'll call it a night.
Thank you guys
Thanks,
very
guys,
much.
for tuning in.
We'll see you next week. Enjoy your weekend.